got me a new toy. My new table saw. It's from Grizzly, the 1023RLW, and really excited about it. I've been replacing all my jigs and fixtures and all that I have on my other saw, and it's been pretty fun. I spent all day yesterday making zero clearance inserts and different types of sleds and a router. The G1023RLW comes with a router table insert. So I've got my router mounted in there. I built a router fence and everything for it. And I was just going to kind of give a little overview of that, of some of these things I built and kind of what I did to build them. So anyway, we'll start out looking at the saw. Alright, well, this is the 1023 RLW table saw. It's got the riving knife and a router table built onto it. 8-inch cast iron wheels with lock in the center for the blade raising or blade height adjustment. Very smooth, very easy operation. Once you get it where you want it, you just lock it down. It won't move after that. Same with the bevel. Nice, smooth operation. Got my router mounted up under the bottom here. Really secure clamping system. It's a little tricky getting your router bit, you know, dead in the center, but don't know if you can see that, but it's a little tricky getting that done. But you know, take your time and get it done and all that. Right out of the box, this saw was really trued up. Everything, all the stops, the 90-degree stop, the 45-degree stop was really true. Got T-slot miters, so it'll accept any kind of accessories that use the T-slots. The only adjustment that I had to do to the saw after I got it was putting on the little scale and matching it up here on the little sight glass. I was a little perturbed because I was actually hoping to actually have to do some type of adjustment on it, but I don't. The blade runs perfectly parallel with the miter slots. The rip fence, which I really never had before. My other was homemade and it was a pain to use. But the rip fence was actually parallel also. I could not believe that there was no adjustment there. Even the stops on the miter gauge here, which it has little stops here and over here, all of those are accurate. When I put my square against it, it was square. But anyway, it's a 3 horsepower saw, a full 3 horsepower. It's wired 220, pulls 14 amps per leg, and anyway, 4-inch dust port on the back, which is connected to my shop vac right now, so you know, really not a big deal. From my old saw, I kept the motor. I've got my old treadmill motor, but now I also have this old motor here. Craftsman was advertising that saw to be a 3 horsepower saw, and you can tell this motor is rated at like 14 amps or 15 amps. So it's not a 3 horsepower saw. Don't go by, if you go and look at saws and stuff at these stores and it says 3 horsepower or develops 3 horsepower or rated 3 horsepower or something like that, or 2 horsepower, whatever. Look at the amperage rating and everything else. Okay, this saw comes with a locking system, a lockout tag out, so you can actually lock the switch on this saw with a padlock that comes from Grizzly. And of course you don't want to leave the key in it, but you know, that way people can't just come in and turn your saw on and everything else. But I'm gonna fire this puppy up right quick and let you hear it run. About all you hear is the hum of the blade. One thing here though, and it's probably very common on most all cabinet saws, is the blade continues to run for several seconds after you turn it off. Okay, I can deal with that, but my other saw, it more or less had kind of a break or something on it that stopped it very quickly. The router works, so I'm in good shape here. I was very excited. I've been building a lot of stuff. I've been building these my panel jigs, replacing my old ones. This is my segmenting jig here, which is, it's not accurate yet, and my panel cutting jig for cutting larger panels. So and they're both trued up, they're both square and everything else. So but this here, and I've got a video on how I built this, but I've got little increments around through here. I don't know if you can even read them or not, but these are just ballparks here until I actually get segments in here and start cutting and do my practice cuts and things like that. This is not what I would just actually use to start cutting with, because I measured these angles with my Swanson Speed Square. So they're probably close, but they're not there. All right, well I'm going to get to my feature here. I'm wanting to show you how I built my router fence for this thing, and I will be right back. Okay, well, here's my router fence, and all it really is 3 pieces of wood that enclose over the top of my rip fence here. But the back piece, it's just one straight piece of wood. It mounts, that just slides down over the back here, screwed down. The front piece here is about an inch wide, and then with the rest of the fence pulled out from it will be about 1 3/4 inches, which is plenty big enough for any router bit that I'm going to put in here. But you can make it ever what size you want. Inside here I've got a mark, which is the center of the fence. And the way this works is this: I've got T-nuts in here in 4 different places, and they come through here where my bolts go through for my fence, and I'll show you what I mean there. The way I put this together was I clamped this thing onto the fence really tight with my clamps before I shot my screws. So this thing is very, very snug fitting. But I want to line up this with that center mark right there that I had put on my fence. Alright. I also left clamping areas here on the ends, here and here, where I can get my my little clamps on there, but it's so tight there is no way this thing moves. If it starts getting a little loose or whatever over time, then I'll start putting my clamps. But then you have this part that goes here, and the screws just mount in here and tighten into those T-nuts. And that allows for side-to-side movement. And all of this wood has been jointed and planed, and it's good and straight and flat. So, but that's, you know, that's pretty much the build. So what I'll do is, once I get this set up, or to set it up, I'll bring the whole fence in and measure it against my bit. Okay, it's not quite centered yet. Too much. Okay, but I'll measure this out to whatever I want my bit set at. Right now it's about 1/4 inch or whatever. Measure your distance from the bit, and then you're going to spread this just enough to that your bit doesn't contact, and that'll allow you to slide it across, and you just close these up, and they don't have to be real tight. They just snug them down, and they'll hold just fine. So, but that's my router fence for my router table extension. Now we'll come over here and we'll look at the zero clearance inserts that I built, and I'll talk to you about kind of how I made those also. This table saw came with two. Okay, one for straight cuts and one for bevels and dados. And they, unlike a lot of them, these really fit good and tight. And the reason is because Grizzly put these little things on the side that actually grip the side in there and hold it in there very securely. A lot better than most of them that I've seen. But what I did was I made these, and they're good and tight fit. Every one of them fits just alike. I measured the sides here, and then I cut my radiuses all the way down. I cut this down to width, and then I cut my radiuses. Well, then I went to the sander, and I would sand, and I'd come back and just make several trial passes. And once I got it, then I used a flush trim bit on my router table, and I made the others with it. Actually, you know, it was very simple to do. But once I got it done, let me take this router thing off of here. Get it out of the way. So, then you pull your fence over and set it on top. You spin your blade up and you raise your blade up through the piece. And I would use I also use my little stop to hold this side just to make sure it didn't push. So I'd hold this down on this side and I let my fence hold it down on the other side. The blade comes straight up through. You're good to go. I did the same thing with this dado. I just put my dado stack in there and brought the blade up through there, and that gives me my dado one. And this one here is for all my bevel cuts. You can see the bevel is cut on this thing, but you see how wide this is. That's one thing that impressed me with this saw, was that the trunnions center point is almost perfect with the top of the table. So when this whole thing is from 0 to 45 degrees, and that's all that it cut out. So I really like that, because I actually have a 0 clearance insert for any miter cut or any bevel cut that I want to make. Another thing I did with these, you've got the little feet here, or whatever you call it. I put screws in the bottom of each one of these to mate up with those, and that's how I level it up. Because actually this is a 1/2 inch thick, and it's just a little bit narrow, but that gives me room to set this up. Also, I had a little bit of play front to back, and what I did, I put a little brad nail in the end and just drove it in. I know it can't go anywhere close to the blade. It doesn't come down with about that far anyway, but that provides just enough grip on that back edge back there to make that a good fit, and there's no slop at all whatsoever in those. But anyway, those are my 0 clearance inserts. Grizzly installed a riving knife with this blade, and it's very easy to install. That pops out, and you've got make sure your saw is turned off and you got it unplugged, but you've got a little quick change thing, and that sticks right down in there behind the blade, and you clamp it back down and you are in good shape to go. The only thing is, you can't use this one with 0 clearance insert. So the only time I'm going to use this is when I need a 0 clearance insert. Otherwise, I'll have the riving knife and my factory insert installed, because the factory insert is made to accommodate the riving knife. Alright, well, that's pretty much the accessories I've been working on. And now I'm just very excited, because now my old saw would not bevel. For some reason, when you would try to turn the bevel, it just get tighter and tighter. And I've lubricated it and cleaned it and everything else. I don't know what's causing that. It could be bad threads or something maybe, but it wouldn't do it. So I was always stuck with making just straight cuts, and that's you know, I couldn't do any stave construction or anything like that with that saw, because it was just wore out. But anyway, that's my saw. That's my accessories that I've made, and I'm getting ready to try to build something else if I can think of something else to build today. Okay, well, that's what I've been up to the last few days, and the last couple of days anyway. One advantage to having this saw come in is I cleaned my shop up, sort of. Anyway, to make room for it, I got rid of the old saw. It's gone to the recycle yard, and the my joiner I moved out under the roof with my planer outside. But all my turning blanks and rough wood and stuff like that, I built shelves on the outside under a shed, and I've got all that mess out there. I could not believe that all of that stuff was actually in here. Now I can actually use my workbench again because it's not piled up with stuff. So now I've actually got a workbench that I can use, and everything else. But anyway, that's my saw. I thank my brother, because without him I could never have got this saw. He's the greatest person in the world. But he actually bought this saw for me in lieu of me building him a kayak. So I've got to build a kayak now. Anyway, I'm going to be out for a couple weeks, and I've got a medical procedure that I'm going to be going through this week, and the doctor says it'll be a couple weeks before I can lift any weights. So I'll be stuck in the house, but probably I think what I'm going to try to do is learn how to use SketchUp. I've got kind of an overview of it, but I just really don't know how to use it. But and what I want to do is, while I'm doing that, is I'm going to go through this router fence and all these jigs and everything that I've built. I'm going to try to do SketchUp models and all, and all of that. So you know, I've had people ask me for plans for this or for that, and I just don't have any plans. I would send them a PDF of a hand drawing. So maybe now, you know, I can do something with SketchUp now. I'll actually have time to learn how to do it. Lord help me, I'm not going to be able to be out here in the shop. It's just driving me crazy. But that's my new saw. I'm glad you guys watched the video and enjoyed it. I really like this saw. It's more than I could have ever hoped for, and I've got something that I can work with now. So anyway, you all have a good day. I'll see y'all in a couple weeks or whatever, and y'all have fun. See you on down the road.